Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I recently decided to rewatch the movie Monster House, which came out in 2006 when I was 13. And I remember this movie as having really quite terrified me at the time. It was really unlike anything else I'd seen in an animated movie at that time. Everything about it was incredibly spooky, with the strange animation, the dark themes, the house that's eating people. Like, the house was animated to look as though it was breathing at some points, and it really brought to light many of the fears that I think a lot of children have. So when I rewatched this movie the other day, I was really surprised at how much flew over my head as a young teen. I don't think I'd actually watched the movie again since I'd seen it for the first time back then, because it had frightened me so much. And there are honestly a number of more adult themes in this movie than you may have thought, which is why I wanted to come on here and talk about these things with you. And also, when I was looking into some of the facts behind the movie, I came across a number of interesting elements that I think a lot of us will have missed when we were kids. So if this is your first time ever having heard about the movie Monster House, or if you just need a little bit of a refresher, essentially this movie follows 12-year-old DJ who has been spying on his creepy elderly neighbor named Mr. Nebbercracker, who absolutely freaks out on any kid who steps foot on his lawn. Later, DJ, his friend Chowder, and a girl they've just met named Jenny come to the realization that this house is actually alive and is eating the people who walk onto the property. And this leads the three kids to attempt to find a way to kill the house. Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis served as executive producers on this film, and there were a number of Easter eggs in Monster House that were dedicated to movies they have done in the past, such as when the house tries to tempt Chowder with his basketball that the house had stolen from him, and it has a smiley face smudged into it, which could seem a bit meaningless, but when you factor in that this is in fact a Wilson basketball, and Robert Zemeckis directed the movie Castaway, which features a similar looking volleyball, then you can put two and two together. And it's also been said that the vibe of how Halloween looks in the suburb area is similar to that of the movie E.T., directed by Spielberg. In addition to that, there are also a number of references to Stephen King. The concept of the house that is alive and eats people comes from the third Dark Tower book called The Wastelands. In the basement, when Chowder shines a light on this monkey with its clapping hands, is a reference to the short story called The Monkey in Stephen King's book The Skeleton Crew, which features a similar looking monkey on the cover of the book. And then most notably, at the beginning of the movie, there's a little girl riding along the sidewalk on her red tricycle, where she eventually comes upon the house and suffers a loss involving her bike. And this is said to be in reference to Stephen King's book The Shining, specifically referencing the scene where the little boy is riding his red tricycle through the hotel and meets those two creepy twin girls. And then the little girl in Monster House coming upon the Monster House is said to be somewhat equal in that both kids on the tricycles have come upon evil, with the little boy and the twin girls and the little girl and the killer house. And something interesting to note here is that there was actually a version of the screenplay for Monster House that was a lot darker than what ended up being on screen. In the original screenplay, DJ and Chowder are supposed to have been harassed by two bullies in their neighborhood named Ryan and Cameron, whom DJ eventually uses as bait to lure them into the house where they get eaten. But this bit was removed from the final script as the studio thought that it would be much too dark for a children's film, because with their deaths combined with all of the other deaths in the movie, as well as the cruel babysitter, the weird boyfriend, and the elderly neighbor who suffers a heart attack, the death of the two boys just seemed a bit excessive, so that part was removed. Another change that was made from the original script was that those who were eaten by the house, and this is a spoiler alert for those who have not seen the movie and want to, but those who were eaten in the original script were actually supposed to stay dead, in that the house actually killed them, like they were just gone from this earth. But the studio again thought that this was hella dark and it wouldn't allow them to keep their PG rating if they kept that in. So in order to rectify that, all of the characters that the house had eaten at the end of the movie during the credits start crawling back out through this hole just alive and well. Interestingly, this movie is not listed as being a horror movie, rather it is listed on IMDb as being an adventure comedy movie. Which blows my mind because, as I was saying earlier, this animation is just so eerie. And there are goddamn jump scares in this movie that scared the hell out of me when I was a kid, and even when I rewatched it last week, I found myself jumping at some of the parts. It's definitely not in the same sphere of horror movies as something like The Conjuring, but for a kids movie, there is most assuredly a good balance between scaring the kids, but also freaking out the parents a little bit as well. But the movie is funny too, so there are a lot of good things happening here that are evening out the laughs compared to the thrills and scares. And I cannot do this video without discussing with you guys some of the weird things that I noticed while watching this movie as an adult. Like I said, there were so many references that were just flying over my head as a kid. And when I originally watched this movie, I watched it with my little brother. So, I mean, there was definitely no way that he would be able to explain any of the references any more than I would be able to. So I was super surprised at some of the references when I rewatched the movie. And I was like, I have to share some of these in my video. So let's begin. First, I know everybody hates on the babysitter Z, and she definitely is kind of a bitch, especially for like breaking that plant and saying that she's going to blame it on DJ. And the kid is too scared to tell his parents because the girl comes to his house dressed as like a preppy college student, but then changes into this like punk rock kind of girl. But I felt so sorry for her because her boyfriend Bones is such a red flag. First of all, he's so creepy. The way he's animated, he looks like the butler in the Haunted Mansion who was dead in that movie. Bones looks like he's dead, and his name doesn't help. And he's even more of a dick than Z, just ripping apart DJ's stuffed animal for fun. And I do not know why DJ did not tell his parents on Z, because she should not have even had her boyfriend over in the first place. And then the part that made me do a double take, because I most definitely did not realize it the first time I watched this movie, I honestly feel like Bones was on the verge of sexually assaulting Z later on in the movie. He started play fighting with her on the couch and she was trying to get him to stop, and he was like, oh, come on, whatever. And thank God she kicks him out of the house right away and tells him that he has no respect for women. And I was just sitting there like, what did I just watch? Like, I could not believe that something like this was in a kids animated movie. There's also a number of, in my opinion, more adult jokes in this movie as well, some of which include what appears like Chowder telling DJ that his mom is cheating on his dad.
Chowder, where are your parents?
My dad's at the pharmacy and my mom's at the movies with her personal trainer.
And then Chowder trying to make DJ feel better when DJ says that he's a murderer for having killed Nevercracker, and Chowder responds with this gem.
No, you're not. I'm not? When it's an accident, they call it manslaughter.
And the thing that confused me the most was that if Nevercracker was so concerned about people coming onto his lawn or items getting onto his lawn, why didn't he just put up a fence? Because he was being legitimately abusive to these kids in broad daylight. I get it's to protect them from the killer house, but I don't understand why he had to take the little girl's bicycle at the beginning. Like, I feel as though all of this could have been solved had Nevercracker just put up a fence. And don't even get me started on the body encased in cement in the basement. Like, that just must have been so traumatizing for DJ to fall on it, have the cement crack, then expose the skeleton of a woman who died there how many years ago by being buried alive by wet cement? Like, who even thinks of this stuff for a children's movie? I honestly have a lot of feelings about the darker elements of the movie, but they really don't matter because this is just a movie. But I did want to bring some of them up because it's just crazy to me that this movie is marketed to kids when, in my opinion, it's just borderline an adult movie that's been animated. But what I love the most about Monster House is that it is a movie that's cool for both kids and adults, just like the movie Coraline that I did a video on a while back. And I appreciate studios trying to find that balance that could span different types of audiences and have younger kids to parents all wholly enjoying the movie. You get your scares, but it's also not too much that it makes watching the movie an uncomfortable experience. So I really loved the blend of genres that they did with Monster House. And that is the end of today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.